Wow, this is going to be an awesome time. You are welcome to The Voyage, the best podcast for immigrants in the United States, talking about the trials, the transitions, and the triumphs of immigrants, sharing their stories in a very raw, undiluted way to connect with you, to get you inspired, to get you motivated, and to get you going in life. On the show today, I have an awesome guest. He is an author, he's an accomplished writer, and he's going to tell us more about himself. Can we meet you, please?
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here today. My name is Kennedy King Odumba. I'm the author of the book Living Beyond Limitations Every Day. I also work with the U.S. Army, originally from Nigeria. I'm excited to be here with you
Awesome.
on this episode.
So you're a fellow immigrant.
Yes.
Interesting. So let's get straight into your story. When did you actually come into the US and why did you choose to relocate to the US?
That's a good one. I came here, that was in 2015. I came to a point in my life where I've lived in my country over 28 years of my life. I decided it's about time I try something different. I started applying to come study here for my master's. I have my bachelor's degree in philosophy, so I came in here just to study more, and that was the decision to move here to come study and definitely explore new opportunities.
So we can say that you were in search of a greener pasture.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So which state did you arrive in when you first arrived in the US?
First state, I arrived in New York.
Okay.
I was in New York, upstate New York, for about a year before my uncle lived in Nashville. So he was the one that was saying, why don't visit Nashville? I think it's a bit better for you. Moving to the US new is kind of cheaper in terms of living expenses and stuff like that. So he convinced me. I came to visit him in Nashville, liked it, went back to New York. I just said, you know what? I think I said about 2 months more than I moved to Nashville. And since then, I've always been in Nashville.
All right, so moving on, can you paint a picture of your first few weeks in the US and what was that? Oh, wow, I'm really here a moment for you. You've been longing to come to the US, and here you find yourself in New York. Coming out of the airplane, your first few weeks was there. Can you describe what it was like for you?
Yes, it was definitely a big transition, a big change. One of the first thing I noticed was the weather, because it was a winter time.
Okay.
So when I came in, it was really cold. Even with the jackets I was putting, still very cold. So I was like, wow, this is different. In New York, the lifestyle, everything was fast paced. And one of the things I noticed that people are not as friendly like back home, when everybody's just on the go. That in my first few weeks, I was in school, trying to get my processing, everything, getting my admission, everything settled so that I can start classes. It was a big change, weather wise, lifestyle wise. The way people move and really, communicate with you is very, very different.
Interesting. So you came here on a student visa,
Exactly.
assuming, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And so the weather was one of the biggest cultural shock for you,
Yes.
right? So apart from the weather shock, what would you describe as your biggest cultural shock, when that you face, or an awkward, funny story, when you since you've been in the US?
Funny story would be,
Or an awkward, cultural shock for you?
I mean, I'll be the awkward cultural shock would be, coming in here. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't. I couldn't work for certain hours. I'm a student. I can work limited hours. And the place I was working at that point, I didn't have a car. I was this guy that normally come to pick me up. You know, we negotiated. I negotiated with him. I think I buy him gas for like $20 a week. He will pick me up, drop me off at work. Those trying to adapt to that lifestyle. Working, going to school. it was a big, shock for
Shock,
me.
a big transition. At that point, did you ever feel like, what mess have I put myself into? I am going back to Nigeria.
I would say when I started feeling that way was when my school was coming to an end, like my stay,
Okay.
my visa was a bit coming to an end. Everybody was like putting me that pressure, that you're going to be out of status soon. You got, you're giving me options of things to do to get myself, straight up. You can either, if possible, you fall in love with somebody, they're married, that can help you regain your stay, or maybe you find a job, that you might get that will find you worthy to fight for you,
Yeah.
have you stay here. Those thoughts were coming in my mind. How, as I think it was like 6 months for me for my program to
And
last and everything.
okay.
So all those were like big thoughts in my mind that got me thinking, am I going to be able to still stay here or go back to Nigeria? Those were like tensions.
I see.
that-
Interesting.
that,
So if you could look back 10 years now, what advice will you give to your newly self? If somebody, if you are just arriving afresh again, what advice will you give to your newly self that just arrived in the US in terms of how to navigate the system?
Definitely advice to give myself would be, take it one day at a time. Take it one day at a time, because
Don't rush it.
don't rush it at all. Because when you come in here, a lot of things are going on in your mind. Like, you're gonna be getting people giving you different advices, to do this, do that. I think also God is one to me. I'm a very spiritual person. I pray and I believe that is, this superior being, call it God, call it the universe, call it whatever you want to call it, that guides us.
Okay.
Always listen to your intuition. People are going to advise you, but follow your mind and know that America is a process. So people want it to happen so quick. You come in and that America you've been hearing, land of dreams, that things become real. Yes, land of dreams, but it's processional. Like something I talked about in my book also. I can mention that I said that life is processional. A lot of people want to, become, how do you put it? A lot of people want to become commanders, but they
Okay.
want to follow commandments. There are
Oh,
commandments that
interesting.
there are processes. And if you come in here, my biggest advice for you will be, one day at a time, everything is going to fall in place. If it's marriage, if it's, your studies, don't rush it. That would be the biggest advice I would give to myself.
Just like in Nigeria, where there are shortcuts or people can do things in a fast-paced way in order to get to their end goal. So you are saying there is nothing like that here in the US. You just have to follow the process, and before you get to your arrived destination, there is nothing like shortcut within the system here.
There are no shortcuts. Yes, this is a place where I say, I put it this way: the harder you work in this country, the luckier you can become. So like nothing like, oh, I'm lucky. I think I got this thing because I was lucky. The luck increases the harder you work, the more value you add to yourself, the more diligent you are in what you're doing. People are going to see it's a country where people pay you for what you merit. It's a country where hard work actually pays. So
Interesting.
it's like, say if you want to,
Find the shortcut.
find a shortcut, bribe somebody. I tell you, if you work hard in this country, which I have seen myself in the last 10 years, I've seen how my life has moved
Okay.
forward. I've seen that hard work really pays here for sure.
Interesting. So, at what point, so talking about your transition, adapting and growing here in the US, at what point did you feel like, wow, I can take a breath? Because coming from Nigeria, I'm assuming that you come with the hustle spirit. At what point that hustle spirit. So, at what point do you begin to feel a sense of comfort that I say, wow, I am finally adjusting? And what actually changed for you at that point in time?
Yes, at the point I came to realize that I'm finally adjusting is, when I, you know, well, when I was able to, finish my school. I got my associate degree in computer science. finished my school, I was able to, I got my first official job. I worked for AT&T for about 3 years. But at that point, I began to realize that now I'm here. I have my own apartment because I was living with my uncle, like I said, when I came down to Nigeria. I stayed with him for about 6 months, got my own, apartments, secure my first job, official job, working for AT&T. I mean, you know what? I'm actually like finally coming here. I was able to pay bills on my own, begin to, plan myself, and every other thing. At this point, I begin to realize that actually, if you follow the process, if you work hard, things will definitely fall in place for you. At
Interesting.
that point, I realized that yes, I'm here, and it's
Wonderful. I am assuming that you already had a first degree in Nigeria before you moved to the US. So and you did your master's here in the US, right?
yes.
Okay. So what to what to what degree will you say having a formal education is for an immigrant here in the US? Say somebody already even have their masters in, but they say, well, let me just plug myself into the work system here without a formal education. Do you think that will give you a competitive edge or not?
Yeah, definitely having that formal education from Nigeria gives you some kind of edge. But the state, you see me
No, I'm talking about having a formal education here in the US.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, well, let me just plug myself into the to the working system.
Yeah, it can be a bit difficult to transition. It's always good when you come in. Yeah, you want to get some experience here,
Yeah,
how things work, get some little, even if it's certification,
Okay.
to know how people operate here, how people the working style here, the culture. Yes, it will give you a big
Advantage.
advantage when you
Awesome.
gain some knowledge on how things work for sure.
Awesome. Now, talking about culture a little bit, can you describe how your views on family, marriage, and parenting evolve since you've been in the US, considering the strong cultural norms and value that we hold and traditional views when it comes to marriage and parenting in Nigeria? How has it changed, since you've been in the US?
Yes, definitely changed.
Really? In what way?
Yes, I mean the way we view marriage and family back home is completely different from here. I mean here, both the man and the woman work.
Okay.
So like back home where you have the man is like seen as the breadwinner, the woman is seen as like more domesticated, takes care of the home and do the cooking, takes care of kids and all that. Here is more of like, I would say it's like more 50-50, where anybody can switch roles. Here it's not as if like specifically I would do this, the woman would do this. I've been able to see that here it's more of like two people trying to help each other. It's not like back home where everybody view the man. Maybe like my own, I'm from the Igbo tribe. When a man is in the kitchen washing plate, cooking and stuff, is viewed a bit inferior. Like that's like a woman's job. This like a man's job.
Dumb.
So the roles here, there's nothing like that here because everybody is working. So it took me time for me to adjust because I was married myself
I'd say.
about 4 years. Married, and my marriage didn't my plan was to make it work, but it didn't get that far because
I'd
this
say.
happened and we separated. Yes,
Will you say that was due to the cultural differences or the cultural shock, or because of your moving to the US? Because I've seen instances where marriages that would not have come to an end if they had been in Nigeria, but because they are now in the US, a different value system kind of encourage, well, maybe not the word encourage, it makes it more easier for those marriages to dissolve, which if they had been in Nigeria, the story would have been different. Do you think the environment here and the value they place on the marriage contributes to such kind of a thing?
It do contribute because these are completely two different people. I grew up from Nigeria. My ex-wife grew up here. a lot of mindset difference with a lot of incompatibility in the reason, little things, that shouldn't be arguments becomes, a big issue, and that can contribute, when in psychology they call it environmentality. The way you grow up determines the way you reason.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that environment growing up here and somebody coming from a different part of the world growing up here, I think it takes time. One of these lessons I learned from that was if you're going to marry somebody from here, I think it's good for you to really, take time to really court them for a long time.
I'd
Get to
say.
understand, get to see some compatibility differences, values, see if you guys align a lot of things. Those can be potential problems if they are not addressed and noticed on time, which I think I tell people there are really no mistakes in life.
Okay.
There are only lessons.
So I agree.
When you see life that way, I think for my own marriage, I pick up lessons. I'm not perfect. She was not perfect.
Sure.
We didn't have that, compatibility, alignment.
I'd say.
Now,
and culture differences was a major issue.
A major issue. Now we've even become more good friends.
Interesting.
Instead of because now we co-parent, and
I'd say.
Yeah, so those are the advice I can give to somebody.
Those are some of the I believe things that are different, when you compare the two cultures from Nigeria and the US. Growing up in Nigeria, I did not really hear of co-parenting.
Yeah.
That was a strange idea to me.
Yes.
But it's something that is acceptable as a norm here.
People are even better co-parenting here than even in marriage.
Interesting.
Yeah, be like, oh, but how come we become so good in co-parenting? But when we are actually in the same house, it was chaos. So there was that different cultural upbringing is an issue with, and the key to solving it is always, I would say for me, I mean, you can't really know people.
Definitely.
But the longer you can, cut and date
Interesting.
that person, I think it can help reduce.
Make a big difference.
The big difference.
Interesting. I know that talking about money, you talked about when you first came into the US that the money was not so surplus to you. What was one big financial mistake that you make, since you've been in the US, being as an immigrant, that you have learned from? Like you said earlier on, there are no mistakes in life, but there are lessons. So what will you consider one of the money or financial lessons that you have learned since you've been here in the US?
Yes, I would say one of those big ones would be not understanding how credit works here. Yeah, because coming from Nigeria, we didn't know what it was like having a good credit, not having a good credit. Nobody really explained that to me very well. And over time, there are some things that I bought that I didn't meet up on time to pay them. I didn't know how that would affect me, and as time goes on, I see that credit have really affected me, like a lot.
Interesting.
Those are my big lessons. My advice to somebody who is moving here: understand how this country is built on credit. The more you can, if you know you cannot afford something,
don't buy it.
Don't just go into it. You just admire it and pass. If not, in the long run, it's going to affect you. And there are things you can you easily buy. You cannot just, even with your money, just because you have bad credit, they will not give it to you.
100%.
Those are the big lessons I've learned here. Like to live within your means. Don't put your hand where you've not, where your finances are not reached yet. Just live within your means, and also try to put aside some part of your money for emergency
funds.
Emergency funds kind of thing. I didn't understand all those things earlier on, but now these are things are beginning to apply now.
So understanding how the credit system works,
Yes.
and having a sound financial principles and discipline is a key thing that it is important being an immigrant here in the US, because growing up in Nigeria or as an African, you can easily run to an uncle or somebody else to help you. Exactly. But here you are on your own to a regular system.
That is so true. Those are big lessons.
How did you balance your African roots while still embracing your American culture? Because there is something that somebody said recently that is so interesting to me. Said 90% of Nigerians or immigrants here in the US, that 90% of them, even though they are in the US, they still think as if they are in Nigeria. They still behave as if they are in Nigeria, and they are unable to integrate themselves into the system here. And at the same time, they are also cut off from the realities back from the African countries, and they are not also well integrated into the American system and culture here. So, what's your take on that? How did you balance? How did you balance maintaining your African roots and also integrating into the American culture and system?
Yes, I think that is a very big and important question. Yes, no matter where you go, your identity, is what defines you. I know that you're in America, but still mostly living in your own country for almost like say 25, 26 years of your life. That those traits are still going to be there, but while you are here, you also have to try to learn how things works here. Mostly, getting education here is very, very important. That will help you integrate. Learning how the finances work here is very important. So you can still behave is the way we are in Nigeria, the things, the way you reason and still expect to achieve much here. You must find a way to balance it, living those those mindset, the way you think. Somebody says doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. So the way you behave, the way you do things, the way you reason back home, yes, it's fine. Moving here, you have to find a way to connect with people here, getting education here, learning how things work here. Those I think can help you really integrate here, because that is your new reality is now that you're in America. It's very, very fundamental that you try to learn how things work.
Interesting.
That will help you thrive.
Okay. Initially, you talk about being a student, that you came on a student visa.
So yeah.
Can you describe or share a little bit with us? I know almost all immigrants have their own unique stories when it comes to their visa status or becoming a citizen or permanent resident. What was your experience like? Can you share? Can you take us a bit into that journey and share a little bit with us?
Yeah, my experience was like moving here as a student, going to school here. It's always back in your mind. No matter, even if you don't want to talk about it, people are even going to remind you, oh, what is your next plan? You're almost coming to the end of your schooling. If you don't do anything, you're going to be out of studies. You can't work. You can't have access to good life here. So for me, that was in my mind. Always as I was going to school. I was always also finding ways to to look up resources, to Google out how can I extend my stay. There are things that I know now that I didn't know then. If I knew those, I wouldn't even make some decisions I made.
Okay.
I think part of it is be very resourceful with Google.
I'd say almighty Google.
Yeah, very resourceful with Google. Look up informations. Don't just listen to a hearsay. Somebody tell you this. Somebody trying to put fear on you. Or this will happen to you. This will not happen to you. We are an information age now. The world is a global village.
Yeah.
Everything you are looking for, you seek questions. There is solutions to almost everything. Everything that is in your thoughts. So my own experience, could have been better if I have used more of my resources more, which, like I said, is lessons. I've learned lessons. So my advice is somebody listening to me out there, you are new in America, you are a student, take your time, go do your schooling. If it's gonna be, if you're gonna extend your stay through maybe, getting married to somebody, that's fine. If you're gonna extend your stay through, if you study stuff like maybe computer science, any kind of specialized kind of course, some jobs can hire you and you extend your stay. It's not, don't listen to pressure of you're going to be out of status, this is going to happen to you. Don't be so anxious about all those things.
And I think also, every information is powerful.
Powerful, yeah.
Even those that have been in the US for 10, 15, 20 years too, still needs to search for accurate information. I'm sure you must have had similar experience, like you go to an office or you call to make an inquiry and you talk to a person and you talk and the person said, well, this thing is not possible. Then that same office, you talk to another person
Listen,
and he was able to get it done.
I'm telling you,
You know,
there's always solutions to problems here. It's just maybe somebody might give you the wrong answer because they don't have the right
knowledge.
knowledge at that point.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just conclude that, oh, it's not possible. Even I come to a point where I believe that nothing is impossible unless maybe, I mean, fast, like maybe somebody is dead. Those are like, so as far as somebody is alive and there are questions, you're asking the right questions, they're going to be answers.
Correct. I believe that 100%. So, have you ever faced any form of discrimination or bias, since you've been in the US, or at a point that you felt out of place,
I would say I can't recall a time where I've really faced, but I would say like some places I've walked, I've noticed that there are there are more of like white folks that works in that in place I've worked, like the place I work now at Vanderbilt, like my departments, I do logistics.
Okay.
So I'm like the only immigrant that works there.
Interesting.
So I kind of sometimes I see myself like
fish out of water.
Yeah, because everybody is white and black and also unique.
Yeah.
Like from a different country, working in that place. Yeah, sometimes when I have conversation with them, it's kind of, we have like a lot of misunderstandings, trying to understand me, trying to understand them, which over time is gotten better. I wouldn't say it's discrimination. I would say it's just me finding myself so unique in the midst of other people.
Interesting.
Which for me is my own is to take my time, learn how they operate, and and take pride in my uniqueness. Sometimes you think being standing out, is
it's advantage.
It's advantage, yeah.
But it is not.
It's certainly an advantage standing out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, being unique. Don't try to fit. Don't try to, sometimes you want to, feel it so much that you lose your own identity.
Yeah.
I try to be myself.
Correct.
Stand for my own values, my own input. Like when we have like conference meetings and stuff. Sometimes initially I was feeling a bit awkward to
express yourself
and express myself and all that. So I noticed that actually your own ideas matter, your own thoughts matter. That is
absolutely.
You are different. We all come together with our own perspective. Everybody is different. We can, bring in something unique.
100%.
So if you find yourself in that kind of situation here in the US, you find yourself black, you find yourself the only immigrant, be bold and always make an impact, because your ideas, your personality, everything matters.
100%. Have you ever felt, has somebody ever told you that you have an accent when you speak? And how did you handle that?
Yes, initially that was making me feeling a bit inferior. But I moved here because my accent was more Monty then. Yeah, so over time it's gotten better, but it's still there because
can't change it.
I'm a Nigerian, so when I speak, so I was like, oh, so you have an accent. Oh, some people were like, oh, we like your accent. So I begin to take that for me
as a pride,
as my own pride.
Correct.
To speak up for myself instead of feeling inferior, or feeling shy to air my view or express myself. So having an accent is your own advantage. Being different is an advantage, for sure.
Awesome. Looking back, what will you consider as being your proudest achievement as an immigrant?
Being my proudest achievement, I would say two of them that stood out for me would be first in 2020, after living here for about say roughly 4 years, I got my first book published here. A book I started writing my second year in school. When I moved to the US, I've written like 7 chapters already in Nigeria. Happened that COVID happened. That time I was laid off from my job. That is why I tell people that is always an advantage in adversity. Based on what life is, you pretty much the way you see it about your perspective. Once you look at something, the way you look at it, oh, this thing is going to harm me, is bad. If you switch it and say, oh, what can I actually learn from this? What advantage can I take from this state? That was what I did for myself. The remaining five chapters of my book, I was able to take my time when I was laid off doing nothing. I writing my book, doing my research. I was able to complete it in year 2020. That was one of my biggest achievements.
Wonderful. What's the title of your book?
It's called Living Beyond Limitations Every Day.
Living Beyond Limitations Every Day. Check out that book, Living Beyond Limitations Every Day. That is a powerful book.
Thank you. Yes.
So that's one of your proudest achievements. Interesting.
Yes, the second one,
okay,
it will be joining the U.S. Army, which has always
okay. You did join in the U.S. Army. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, I joined in 2003. This is my third year now in the Army. I've been able to travel with the Army, around the United States, looking to eventually travel out of the state. Something around next year, I'm working towards that to travel more.
Do you shoot gun?
Oh yeah, that is my job. I'm a professional. Yes. So I'm interested. That's one of my biggest thing I've been able to accomplish here. And I encourage people, you move here, and trying to really make some big move, take advantage of this country. Being in the U.S. Army is huge. It opens doors for you.
Wow.
That's done for me as well.
Interesting. That's something that people should take note of.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, what will you say that the role that the immigrant community and networking has played in your success, being an immigrant?
Yes, the role is huge. I have this group of Nigerians, Ghanaians. It's a WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Soccer and Grill. Like we all
Soccer and Grill.
Soccer and Grill.
Interesting.
It's a group of young immigrants like me.
Okay.
Who move here. We meet up every weekend. We play soccer. We do events. If somebody's having a birthday, we celebrate with them. Somebody's having maybe the dedication of their newborn child. We all get together and celebrate with them. Somebody's getting married. It's like it's beyond just soccer. So
interesting.
That networking has really helped us to still keep our
African root
and still
connect,
because we pretty much work from Monday to Friday. So every weekend we all come together, play our Afro beats, grill suya, and just have that memory going.
That's interesting.
Connecting with those folks from the same background has really helped to settle here.
Interesting.
For sure.
If you could name one person who helped you the most on your journey and in integrating to the system here, who will that person be and why?
Who helped me the most? I wouldn't put it to one person.
Okay.
Yeah, I've met some very interesting people, that have helped me along the way, both in advice. I would say number one would be the church that I go to.
Okay.
When the first church that is called Resurrected Life Church. When I moved here, it was somebody that really helped me out. When I didn't have no car then, though he would come, he would pick me up. He's the pastor of the church.
Okay.
Yes, his name is Pastor Kobe.
Okay. Yeah,
a very good man to remember. Those early days when I moved here, he was giving me a lot of advice. Like I was saying about following the process.
Yeah.
Not being in a hurry. Everything will fall in place for you. Every dream that you come to America to achieve, and then you have all those dreams, but it's going to take time. Yes, he was one of those people that have helped me. Here and there, I've met people in school. I've met people at work. But I think for him, he stood out. Those early days here.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, how do you define success now compared to when you were in Nigeria before you moved to the US? How do you define success then and now?
Yes. So then, success for me, I seen it then was more materialistic then, having, driving nice car, living in a nice house, wearing maybe the latest Rolex watch, all those materialistic view. But now in the US, I see success as more of like, peace of mind.
The success is a peace of mind. Interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, you hear stories in the news. You have people who are so rich.
That's
With all their money. I think it was the last 2 years. There was this lady that committed suicide.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that if you go on his social media, she's posting good stuff, always happy, and suddenly I think she won the most beautiful girl in America sometime 2018, and one morning everybody was shocked that she committed suicide and died. And
Wow.
so it goes to tell you that a lot of people that you meet on daily basis, even with the smile they used to cover their face, inside of them they're actually
going through a lot.
So a lot of people are facing pressures here. Maybe they don't like the kind of job they do, or maybe they have a lot of baggages they are carrying over the years that nobody is helping them to to resolve it. So peace of mind for me is underrated. I think it's one of the biggest success. So no matter how much you have, you can buy peace of mind.
Interesting.
That helped me really define success. If you have that peace of mind, I think every other things will fall in place for you.
Awesome. That's good to know. Have you been able to give back to the community or to your country or to your local people back home in Nigeria? They say that it takes a village to raise a child. And I know that there is a sense of commitment from a lot of immigrants to give back to their community, back in Nigeria. In your own case, have you been able to do that, and what does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, that means a lot to me because growing up for me, I grew up from a very poor family myself. I've seen struggle. I've seen what it means like for someone to, to survive in Nigeria. So like when people call me back home, asking me genuinely for help, I know what it's like. It's not like somebody's telling me trying to scam me or what. I've been there before. So once in a while I give out. There was one actually that happened recently in my own community. They said for about a month now they didn't have power because one of the electricity pole fell down and they've been out of power. They reach out to the youths of my community because I belong to the group as well.
Okay.
They reach out to me and crying that I can support them to have that sorted out, which I obliged and I send them some money to support.
That's good. That's good.
I know how difficult it is back home, and
that's good.
When the call comes and I have it, I always give back.
Wonderful. What will be one, as we begin to wrap up, what is one hilarious misconceptions that Americans have about Nigerians or Africans in general that you have encountered? One misconception.
Misconception would be, I would think some of them think that maybe we feel that we are superior or better than them sometime. That is a misconception. We are not. We are Nigerians. We come out bold anywhere we are. We are raised to stand up for ourselves. We are very hardworking people, and if you misinterpret that like we are trying to intimidate you or feel like we're better than you, that could be a very big misconception. It's just who we are.
It's just being yourself.
We are very bold people, and we always want to go for what we put our mind to do.
Interesting.
And we are known for rising from grass to grace. You see Nigerians to come in here, nobody, and before you give them a couple years, they move up
the ladder.
They're like, yes, and then we'll keep doing that. And that is not being arrogant or anything. It's just the way we are.
Interesting. Yeah. If you could bring one thing from Nigeria and make it popular here in the US, what would that thing be? Whatever, anything that you could bring from Nigeria and make it popular here, either food, a culture, a values, whatever it is, and make it popular here in the US, what would that thing be?
I would say one of the things would be the way we view family. Raising kids in the US is a bit difficult. Here, everybody's on their own, so independent. But back home, we see raising kids as it's a community
effort.
Yes. So like, me, I have a son, sometimes it's hard to find a place to drop him off if I want to do something. Everybody's just busy working on their own. Maybe unless you have to pay somebody or something like that. But back home, we see raising kids as a community
Effort.
If one thing I can bring here would be everybody seeing themselves as more of community instead of being so individualistic lifestyle. I think that will even help to reduce, anxiety and depression. Yeah, because some people will just be on their own from year to year, nobody to talk to, and they are dying gradually in their.
Yeah, that I believe that's one of the things a lot of people take for advantage. I mean, that we
So that would be.
yeah. So that one of the things a lot of people did not really appreciate the fact that you have that network of uncles, sisters, even neighbors that can actually support you in raising your child. But here in the US, you are on your own.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that is a big.
That's it.
Like to rebrand here if possible.
Okay, so when you miss Nigeria, what is one food that you think of and I'll say, wow, I must eat this food today?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite is pepper soup, goat meat, and white rice.
Really? Pepper soup, goat meat, and white rice. And do you find that goat meat here?
Yeah, there's just a new restaurant called Eco Restaurant.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the guy is doing well so far. Sometimes
goat meat without skin or goat meat with skin, they are different.
Yeah, both. That makes
me when I eat goat meat without the skin, that one is not authentic goat meat. Oh.
That is skin.
It must do with the skin.
Skin, yes. Especially when the skin is there too, it adds some flavor to it.
Yeah, awesome. What is one myth about the immigrant journey that you would like to debunk? Either one myth that people back in the African countries or even people that are here that they have about immigrants generally in terms of our experience, the journey or the process that you would like to debunk or clarify to people?
You mean people who are here?
Either people that are here or people that are back home in Nigeria or any of African countries.
Yes, I mean people that are back home, sometimes they feel that once you are here that you have everything like figures. Yeah. You post maybe a picture, say, oh, you're looking good, and before you know it, people are asking you for money and stuff. You find people even finding it hard to express themselves anymore because everybody will feel that your life is all perfect. Nobody have it all figured out. Because you moved to the US doesn't mean that you don't have problems. I even tell people, we pray in Nigeria actually, but here in the US, you actually need prayers more. You need God to actually order your steps here to, accomplish your goals here, because people will feel that, oh, because you're in America, that mindset that they are
like picking money on the street.
Yeah, they'll be asking you money as if say, that's mentality is not
It's not correct.
Yeah,
Awesome. All right. So the question, the last question now is that, are you thinking of going back to Nigeria, relocating back to Nigeria?
Yeah, definitely it's a future plan. Home is home no matter where you go. The idea, the main goal is to explore this country, explore America, take advantage of it, make all you can of your life, and definitely go back home and give back. That is where I'm coming from. I want to be able to invest in my community and mostly, have, take advantage of going to school here, adding value to myself so that I can give back to Nigeria. It's a plan that we definitely come to pass, moving back to Nigeria for sure.
Even with all of the inconveniences with the power supply, with the road network, with the kidnapping, you still want to go back to Nigeria?
Yes, yeah, that is my home. That is, I will still want to go back, and I mean going back in a more upgraded way.
Okay.
The time I will go back, I know that mostly my own community, and I know that I have good business running there, good establishments, at least create something for the young people growing up.
Wonderful.
Because I mean we can't come here and see all these beautiful things, and that was one thing I always mantra I always follow from this former US president John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
That's something he said. He said, don't think of what your country will do for you, think of what you can do for your country.
Interesting.
And it's not only the government that can change the country. It takes individual families, communities, me and you. We know the government is there, But that change actually starts from us. If somebody is trying to, have a change, to make things happen, let that change at least start from you somehow.
All right.
So I think that I have a role to play in Nigeria in the future, which I'm working towards, and I believe that definitely it's going to start with people like me and you to go back at one point.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. So this has been an interesting episode
Yes.
with Kennedy on the voyage, the trials, the transitions, and the triumph. I know that your journey still continues, just like every other immigrant here, and the journey still unfolds day by day. Thank you for joining us on our show today, The Voyage, the trials, the transitions, and the triumphs of immigrants in the United States. Until our next show, keep exploring and keep being your authentic self as an immigrant. See you. Bye.